Hello, guys. Safeya Alblooshi and Jordan Cortez from Analog Amigo Records. Today we're going to be playing Found Sounds في إمارات. So here's the thing. In this part of the track, this is the sound of like women weaving traditional Emirati crafts. And like when I actually worked on the full track, I was like, okay, I want to add. I had two recordings of the weaving, and I was like, okay, I want to incorporate it into the track, but I want it to be in the beginning of track A and on the end of track B. So that's why the intro of part A and the outro of part B is like they have their own sounds. Yeah.
But the recording from the intro and the outro were two separate recordings, right?
Actually, even in this one, like you know, like yesterday we were performing at Public Art Biennale, right? And you heard like this jingle, and it's basically the same guys performing, but they're playing like this a sea music where they're like on a boat. And I wanted to include it here. Remember, I texted you. I was like, "Oh, I want to change something," and you're like, and the reason I thought maybe not change it because it includes a lot of high ends and a lot of rhythmical elements, so I kept it as this instead.
Which is a sick single, by the way. I
Yeah.
love it so much.
Thank you. I think the 5 minute format also worked perfect for me. Yeah.
And actually, this particular like drone background, along with the chants, is kind of like when you like. I just thought it's so perfect in that particular part of the track. Like it's really such a good build up. That kind of like I think the first 2 minutes alone of this track already sort of like encapsulates what the whole record means. Yes.
I think I wanted this to be track B, but then I swapped it um, because I felt the same. I like this. I use this sound in a bunch of other fieldworks, but it's like old Dubai. Because I didn't.
You did the right job. I mean, I think this is perfect for A track.
Yeah.
And the second one, the B track, where we will get to later, I think the beginning of it is perfect for as a side B because it's rhythmic
Right.
at the beginning of it.
Yeah. Um, it's like I wanted to in this part I mixed two different sounds of it doesn't exist anymore, the kind of the old Dubai temple
Yeah.
and the sounds of old Dubai, because I don't want to focus only on sounds like of Emirati singers, you know.
You know, one thing that I'm so impressed with is like it's it's mostly field recording, but deciding what part A and part B should be is an art form itself. So I just, like I said, I like it that you decided that this is part A and the next one will be part B, because the beginning of part B sort of like have a bit of a contrast with what is on A, but at the same time, it will still bring you to the actual kind of like point of like the whole album, or the actual sound or vibe of the whole album. So, and it's just, I don't know if it's even hard to kind of like formulate it in that way, but a lot of people don't do that in music or find it hard to do that in music. What more to have that sort of like decision on a field recording, like which one will be part A, which one will be part B.
Right. Yeah. I think it's mainly because I wanted it to show. So that was the end of part A. I guess I wanted it to show like the narrative of how I understand like representation of the different Emirates through sound. So for me, it was a journey. I included soundscapes from Abu Dhabi, from Dubai, from Ras Khaimah, and for me, it was like, okay, what represents that better first? And we just flip it over.
We'll go to B side. So to all the people who will be watching this, we need to flip the tape to go through the next track. It's not just like a shuffle thing. Well, it's shuffling, but it's physical shuffling.
Actually, I listened to this last night, and then I realized I forgot which sounds. Oh, right.
So this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's even on a different kind of like, not just because it's rhythmic. It's sort of like in a different tone as well. So that's what I meant by it should have a bit of a contrast with what's on A, just to give the people, like, whenever we do art, we always assume that the people who will be consuming it doesn't know anything about us. So you always want to give them sort of like a good presentation of like the product. So here there is a contrast between what is on the A side, but as this track progresses, it will, and going back to your initial point of like you did the same outro as the intro, so it puts you back to the reality of like the whole vibe of like the whole album actually.
Yeah, I think I wanted the listeners inside A to get introduced to a field recording. What you're listening to right now is a track that I worked on earlier that has very little field recording, but it's more of a digital track with a lot of effects. So I thought better introduce the audience first to the field recording side of things, and then in track B, you can, they already built a listening. I really wanted to have the Nadba, which is, there's a tribe in Ras Khaimah called the Shrouf, and they do this call. Used to be a ceremonious call, after the war, but now they do it in the weddings. And this is Ras Khaimah sounds.
I even had a feedback from someone. It's a good feedback. I mean, he told me that like I could have something or some like more than 2 tracks. But they think it's like short. Like why she only released 2 tracks? But I have to explain to them that Safi is actually a sound researcher. I mean, her output is her study, and part of studying things is taking the patience of like knowing what is that you're studying. So I think the good part about this album is it just makes them want to follow you more about your sound study and stuff, because you release a tape now, but it isn't, this is just the first of it, of the many.
Yeah, I think that I think, well, thanks for putting it that way, because at least, like, for me, it's true that I never uh, publicly and officially released something. And of course, I wanted to do with Analog Amigo. It was the best platform. And when you told me that the tape was only 5 minutes each side, I was like, that's perfect. Because I work with a lot of field recording and I have a big collection, but it is not easy to collage them together sometimes. Because you got to decide what is there to include. So it worked perfectly. This is like another weaving craft that ends.
So because I mean I'm only speaking from how I personally look at it, but I always see this release as sort of like this is your initial output, but as a fan or as an audience, I always like want to look at it as this sort of like a product or a published output, similar to like when a researcher publishes a paper. So it's something that if you are into like the same field of study or just like want to know more about field recording or found sounds in the UAE, there is something sort of like the introductory manifesto, and then through time you can just like keep on like following up on the study, and that will be through your next releases or something. So that's how I always like look at it. It's like thinking of you as like an scholastic in the sound culture of the UAE, and this is sort of like your first published paper, but in the form of like the actual medium that you are studying, which is sound.
Yeah, I love that. I, as a researcher, like at NYU, um, kept on. I wrote a paper and I presented it, but I never wanted to publish it because it didn't like reflect my understanding of what sound is as a practice person, sound practice person, and sound researcher in academia. Like this is this represents more what I want. And for the audience, if you're more interested in like what are the sounds and that you listen to, you can head over to the Analog Amigo page, and then you could also see like the track name is also the recordings that were featured in each side.
The sources.
Yeah.
So
Thanks
that's
for
it.
tuning in.
Thanks for tuning in.